I'm Gertjan van Stam. I'm here at Windesheim University of Applied Sciences. I'm one of the researchers in the group, the professorship of networking in circular economy. To introduce myself is actually what happened yesterday. Yesterday morning, I was in Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, and I was yesterday afternoon in the Netherlands. And for me, both places are home. I lived a good 20 years full-time in Zimbabwe, Zambia. In '87, oops, a long time ago, I was already in Eswatini, it's called now, Swaziland. And now I'm here in the Netherlands. We are taking care of our aging parents. Our interesting guests, maybe please put your on silent. Thank you. Calvin, can you put it on silent, please? Thank you. Thank you. I'm on both sides the same. It's important that we are bridging worlds, and the nice thing of the circular economy is that we are recognizing it internationally that we're now coming together. So last week we had a conference in Masvingo, Zimbabwe on very broad topics, but the issue of colonialism came up all the time. And this lecture, I would like to introduce economy from these kind of perspectives that you might not be used to. So I really urge you to put your seatbelts on. This is not a lecture that you normally hear, but this is what this course is about, to get more sensitivity to the subjects that normally we don't hear about. And the interesting thing is that we are with about 30, 40 people here. I can see on the screen that also in Masvingo, there's a group of about 30, 40 people watching this lecture. So this is a lecture that hopefully will build a bridge, what we call globalization. So there's global theories that then pan out differently in different environments. So here in Zwolle, it will pan out differently. So in this cooperation, which we hope to establish, is that we are going to learn of the different views of what it's all about in bedrijfskunde, in commerce, in the way we live our lives. And we think that's important because we need agency. We need agency. The world is changing rapidly. There's all kinds of things happening. And how do we deal with that? And it depends on how you have internalized, I think, these kind of things. So again, these are not things that are easily being said. I do it also with fair interpretation. It's not an easy lecture to give, but I stand for it because we need to live this kind of stuff. So the lecture is about coloniality and economy. And now I'm going to see if all the equipment does what I wanted to do. And then we get the next slide. Yes. So this is the welcome. I'm doing research from what I call living research. Living research is, you are part of the environment, ethnographic, but much deeper, where we all are involved. And that's what we are doing now also in economy research. It's becoming more and more a social science. And we're starting to understand what are the reasons why we are doing the things we do. So we're going to go deep into colonialism, community, economy, and the way it impacts our world. And again, put your seatbelts up, have a broad spectrum analysis, and allow this to sink in a bit. So let's go right to the start of the issue. What is colonialism? So, is there any suggestion on what colonialism is? Nothing. Up here? Well, we'll come to that. Let me tell you that colonialism comes out of what I call the terrible three. The terrible three. I hope you will catch that one. Because the terrible three are, first of all, Orientalism. Secondly, imperialism, and thirdly, colonialism. Orientalism, we're going to start with that. Orientalism, what is Orientalism? Well, it's in one word, very simple, othering. The other. You know, the Chinese are like that. Africans are like that, Europeans are like that, Americans are like that, South Americans are like that, the Frisian people are like that. So it's basically othering. You know, it's very interesting. If you look at economy, basically the way we are people are othering the world. We're othering the people in Bangladesh that work for us. We are othering whole people groups. And of Orientalism, it leads to segregation. Segregation leads to racism. And racism leads to xenophobia and those kind of things. So it's a very fundamental principle in humanity that we have allowed Orientalism to exist. But we're all the same. We're all the same. We are human beings. We want to love, we want to be loved, we want to be recognized in what we're doing, we want to take care. Orientalism doesn't allow for that. It separates, it stigmatizes, it individualizes. So Orientalism is the first thing, and Orientalism leads to allowing for slavery. So the big thing of Orientalism is that it leads to slavery. So let's deal with slavery. Slavery is past, isn't it? It's finished. But if you look to the International Labour Organization, it has a whole section on slavery. And it basically says slavery nowadays is when people do jobs they cannot get out of it and have to do it and don't get paid enough to live. You know about child labor in many countries. Even in Zimbabwe, we have lots of people herding the cattle, get hardly paid for it. That's slavery. People that clean other people's houses, that's slavery. But also the people that create our garments in fast business, in fast textiles, for instance. Basically, those are slavery conditions. So let's go a bit further. We saw this newspaper, the Dutch newspaper, the Volkskrant, saying the Netherlands, up to the day, is still over its ears into slavery. It's underwater in slavery. Is this true? And again, we are trying to get ourselves around the concept of Orientalism. It's about understanding that Orientalism exists and is vibrant. So Orientalism leads to slavery, and the Volkskrant says even today it's slavery. So what is this slavery? This kind of stuff, by the way, you cannot use ChatGPT too much or Wikipedia because it has filtered these things out. The slavery in the Netherlands was studied by a lecturer in Friesland and sorry. Oh, yeah. How to unmute? Oh, participant. I found it. Sorry. Yeah, good. So they studied from NHL Standen and here the Netherlands how many people work for the Netherlands for slavery. We have inside the Netherlands about 30,000 slaves that are really living under slavery conditions inside the country. But outside, we have 13.8 million people living in slavery to keep this country going. 13.8 million. These figures make sense because I'm used to see elite people, also in Zimbabwe and so on, having people working for them in sort of slavery conditions. And that is about 2 per household. 1 to clean the house, 1 to put the food, take care of the kids, and so on. You can see it in Southern Africa very clearly when you walk around. But here we can't see it so well in the Netherlands because they are in Bangladesh, they are in Ghana, they are in Suriname, in the cities to get the bauxite for the aluminium that we are melting. So it's about 2 people in slavery conditions for every Dutch household in the world somewhere. We can't see them. We have orientalized, we have put them somewhere else. But they are working in jobs that they don't get paid enough, but they can't do anything else. And of course, it's self-perpetuating, because if we would stop consuming in our economy here, we say they have no job. But are these worthwhile jobs? So this is the first one of the terrible 3, Orientalism. I hope I've introduced it and shown what at least looks like in today's world in the Netherlands and also in Zimbabwe, because people know these things. We don't talk about these things. And again, I told you this lecture is not easy to give because these are sensitive issues. But here I'm referring, all my stuff is written. The references are underneath. You can check yourself. And I really encourage you to do it. Convince yourself that we are talking sense here. And we are still heading for colonialism, but we have to have first the understanding that imperialism, that Orientalism exists, and Orientalism leads to imperialism. Now, what's imperialism now? Imperialism is a dominant relationship between, collectives, countries, anything that's organized as a collective. And it's the other one saying it should be like this. For instance, we have several ways of doing imperialism. It started with the conceptualization of the nation state. That was Westphalia. That a nation state exists is not a given. It was a Eurocentric European event. Church state were fighting, and in 1648 they said, hey, we have to solve this thing, so we separate these two and we create a nation state. That was only in Europe existing. This thinking is Eurocentric thinking. It came out of Europe that nation states exist. And for instance, we have people in Masvingo online, they are Shona people. We might go to Chikombedzi there, they are Tsonga. We have Ndebele people. These are different people in the same nation. So what does exist? We have Friesland here in the Netherlands. Is that a different nation? This nation state thing is there and has led to imperialistic behavior. One is better than the other, they say. Or we had the organization of how we do email. That's Google. That's imperialistic. Where is the European one? Where is the African email service? And we know we are in a bit of trouble right now, but it was the imperialism that happened, that led to this. So I've got economic imperialism, which is called now capitalism. And this is the way to do it. We are teaching ourselves in that kind of environment, but there are others also existing. This political imperialism, that is a certain way of looking at how politics are organized. Military imperialism, we know who is the big boss around. And you see the struggle there. Communication imperialism, we are using these machines now, but what if you don't have machines or are not on the internet? Half of the world is not using internet. Half of the world is not connected. Where are they? How do we get their voice heard? How do they participate? We have cultural imperialism. Even the clothes that I'm wearing. You know, in Burkina Faso, we had Sankara who said, okay, do away with this stuff. We are importing all this stuff and being imperialized through that. So let's use local material to build our clothes. But imperial says, no, this is the way to do it. We have language imperialism. We use English right now. We should use Dutch, but we can't communicate very well, but we might have tools to do so. And we have Shona on the other side and people in Zambia and so on who speak different languages. But we use this English language, which is imperialistic. And we have digital imperialism. How come these computers look the way they are? The problem is I see screens here, but I don't know what's on your screen. So this is a way of looking at how it should be designed. And it's imperialistic because I can't relate with you what's happening on your screens. Well, if we look each other in the eyes, we know what's going on. So it's a way of looking how it should be done, and that's how it's being done. But the other computer that I can see on the screen right now is not existing, but should exist, in my view, because we are together. How come I cannot see your screen? Why are you separating yourself? Why do you allow this Orientalism to happen? Again, what does it mean in practice? Well, we know that the European countries do live off the rest of the world. We know that the way we are having profit, more than half comes from nature, the rest comes from community to a large extent, and it has been drained from global south. And the figures are staggering. I don't even know what 152 trillion dollar is. I don't know. It's million, I think, or trillion is I don't know. These numbers are so outrageous. I wrote papers about it in 2014, and I don't do it again because I can't sleep at night. And then you see it also that this imperialism is there. We have the issue of how we deal with nature, how we deal with society. It's in papers, but it's somewhere down there. You can't see it in the titles. We are putting it away because we have certain ways of looking at science and how we have to report. So that's all imperialistic. Again, it's about teaching this lesson. What is Orientalism and imperialism? The cases I'm just using, but it's about getting to feel that it exists. And now we go to the big one, colonialism. Again, yesterday I flew from Africa. Yesterday morning I was in Africa, and now I'm here. I was discussing last week full time what does colonialism is and how it wreaks havoc in our current economies. But what is this colonialism now? And again, I asked you, how do you define colonialism? I did not get an answer. So let me propose one. Colonialism is to be somewhere else and say how they should do it. We went to Suriname, the Netherlands went to Suriname and told the Suriname how to structure their education, their health, the churches, their whatever. That's colonialism. Do you agree? Yeah, there's one. Do we agree? No, it's not. Any opposition to it? Colonialism is landje pik. Yeah, we seem to agree with this one. Yeah, I see more nodding heads. Now, the interesting thing is, this is the perspective of the colonializers. Here in the Netherlands, where this lecture is being given, we have been the colonizers. We are the colonizers. And colonizers define realities. So the colonizer says, yeah, there's no colonization right now because I'm not there. We are not colonizing Suriname anymore because they are not there. Okay, thank you for your speaker off. Yes. So we are not colonializing anymore because we're not there. We have no colony in Indonesia anymore. And that's what most colonizers tell us because we are not there. But if this definition the way it is, and there Masvingo, make note, because even in Africa, they're being educated this definition of colonization. But I will tell you, it is not. Because colonializers are little, but the colonialized are many. So what is the view of colonization from those who are colonialized? Are you getting what I'm trying to say? So what is the view of those who are colonialized? If there is colonization, some are colonializers, others are colonialized. So what's the view of those who are colonialized? That is completely different. It's I'm being shamed, I'm not good enough, I'm black, I'm Asian, I don't have the right papers, I don't know, I'm being shamed. Secondly, I'm being brainwashed. It must be like this. This is how it's done well. This is how you do entrepreneurship. This is how you should behave. And then thirdly, okay, you can fill in a form, and if you have a nice project proposal, you get some money back. That's colonization, because the landje pik doesn't even exist. When you come somewhere, people are there to welcome you. Say, wow, nice, you are also taking time to come and visit us. There is no landje pik. The land is of our all. And we know, for instance, in this environment, we don't have that too often, and in the Randstad, but in Friesland, identity is linked to the land. In most parts in the world, it's like that. So landje pik doesn't even exist because land is of us all. And the Eurocentric idea that came in the 1800s to have private property is only 200 years, 300 years. Before that, it didn't exist. But we had to put that to make the banking possible and all the systems that we are in place right now. And then we started to colonialize. So, I hope you are getting it. So we have had the terrible three. We have had Orientalism, imperialism, and colonialism. But we are not there yet. Because in your sheet of 100 different words, you will find the word supercolonialism. You cannot put ChatGPT on that. It will not give you the answer, not even Wikipedia. Because what is supercolonialism? Supercolonialism is the continuous way of doing colonial behavior, but nowadays it's not really the countries that do it. I mean, we are not really colonializing Landje Pik Suriname right now, although we have a colonial activity going on. It's still speaking Dutch most of the time. But it's super colonial. We have our industries doing it. Basically, we all in Masvingo and in Zimbabwe, South Africa and Zambia and here in the Netherlands, we are colonialized by this equipment that you have got. That comes from many apples here. So that comes from California. And yeah, who is colonializing now who? This is super colonialism. When you send an email to me, most probably NSA in the United States knows it quicker than I. And we know they're using it. So supercolonialism is the intensified colonial practice of and subordinating other populations, groups, activities, ways of thinking, and the collectives to serve the interest of the colonial powers. Well, you know that the biggest companies in the world are in the United States. That is because they are colonializing us right now and then. All the stuff we are using, they are the first to know. They are not even online to discuss with us, but they got all the transcript, the video, everything there first. Supercolonialism. So it's done by states, international organizations, and increasingly by transnational corporations. And for instance, in the world, we had a huge shock when Trump came into power and closed down US aid. US aid was investing 70 billion a year in the rest of the world, and it was gone overnight. That was an international organization that was colonizing the way that it was being done in the West and implementing it somewhere else. Now, again, it's a case of showing how supercolonialism works. It's a scaling up of exploitative colonial practices. And I have not been in Zimbabwe for a long time, and I saw that now every fourth, fifth truck is a mining truck. The amount of ravaging of the earth was at a rate I have not seen. And I was not there for 3 years, so hey, it's amazing to see how it's being ramped up right now. And it is perpetuated by a narrative of superiority. Do you hear again the imperialism words there? Superiority, bringing civilization. This is how you do it. And then it is really the Western savior syndrome. And actually, I was quite happy. I flew yesterday, and I saw a very little amount of people that would do that kind of stuff. You recognize them right away in the aeroplanes, the technical experts. And that was the positive thing about USAID, that they were not too much in the planes anymore. And we were discussing the whole last week, how can we do things locally? And we do that also here with our lecturers. So now the last one we have had the terrible three. Now the word coloniality is another one to learn. Is this internalized behavior of what I call that we use the terrible three without us even knowing. I hope after today you do know. You will recognize when you are othering, when you think you know better, and when you actually enforce this activity. So it's the deep-seated structures and cognitive, it is in our thinking of that comes from colonialism, and it's for both the colonializers and the colonialized. So I'm not painting fingers here. That's why we have a global presentation right now. They could say, ho, stop. No, this is everywhere the same. It happens. And those who are colonialized are also having coloniality in their thinking. We just have to wean off of that. Now, I will get to that. But I need to get these ground structures in first, and then we'll have a break before I'll explain how the circular and linear economy work, because I think it's very difficult to understand without this theory first. So let's go on the issue of community. What's a community? Anybody? Any suggestions? What's a community? All right. I'll take it that it's a bit overwhelming, this kind of stuff, and I'm not amazed. You know? So we have little interaction, and I don't mind for now, because we are doing theory. This is a whole lecture almost. And once this stuff we don't teach too often, but I'm very happy we are doing it now, and you will get more lectures of these kinds. We need to hear these things. This is theory, sound theory. It's well documented, as you can also see here. It was last year presented at the conference in Spain from our university here in Zwolle. So we'll break after this one because I can see your attention. This is tough stuff. But let's go for community because this will change your world. I'm putting a big claim here. If you have seen what I'm going to show you now, you will not look the same. So watch. The first thing what we have is the individual. All right. Let's say we look at individual. What's an individual? Yeah, try.
Single person.
The single person. Okay. I hear you. And I think yes, but let's go one. How do we view this person? Let me give you a framing of that. It's a human being that is not really related. Actually, I hardly know you. You see me for the first time, so we do not have a relationship. So you could see me as being an individual here. How are you? So you can be an individual. You can see me as an individual, and then this class is a sort of a social contract. You are in a university, so you expect me to emanate information, and there's a social contract. I expect you to listen. There's a social contract. So then we see each other as individuals. Are you agreeing that's an individual, an unrelated human being? Okay. All right. Now the Eurocentric, Western-centric literature, even social science, says when you bring them together, you have a community. And again, there are papers written on this. There's references there. So when you bring individuals together, the statement is you have community, but you do not have community. It's not true. Because if you bring individuals together, you have what I call a conglomerate. Individuals together is a conglomerate. So these individuals together, they have mission, vision, objectives, they work together to reach a certain goal. And if somebody drops out, that's fine, and so on and so on. They are a conglomerate. The community is different. I hope you sense that in your heart. Are you sensing it in your heart? A bit. So individuals together is not a community, it's a conglomerate. And this is also, according to theory, you know how to set up businesses. It's what you are studying and what you are busy with, and with businesses, and they are conglomerates. They are individuals together. Because that's not a community. Your family, for instance, is a community, and that's not a conglomerate, is it? So what is it then? So we are searching for the definition of community, and we are not finding it when we look from the individual perspective. Because there it is. People, individuals together is a conglomerate, not a community. So this took me 10 years to find, by the way, 10 years. And stopped by peer review and stuff, because this was already sorted in the Berlin conference. You won't believe the peer review coming with 1,800 papers where there was no only Europeans around. Anyway, if this is a given, what's a community now? So let's go back to the drawing board. Do individuals exist? So I'm playing an individual now, you are individuals, but are we really like that? No, I have a mother. I have a relationship with Mark, who invited to give this lecture. You have a relationship with people around you that made possible that you are here. We have people that have cleaned the room. So who are those people? Why did they do it? Well, you all have a mother. So you are related. They are related human beings. I call them a person. So get it. So you have the individual is unrelated, but from a relationship point of view, you are a person. You're getting it? Is it a bit? Yeah, you're getting it? Yeah, you're getting it. One get it. Now, when you bring persons together, those that are related, you can already feel this is now community. So when we say we want to build community, we are working on the bottom line, not on the top line. When you want to build a community in a conglomerate, you have a real difficulty, because how related are you? So individuals create conglomerates, but since you are a product of your father and mother, you become a person out of community. So you read it completely different. And last week at the conference, we had a huge discussion about this kind of stuff. Because most of our sentences start with I am working with you to reach this goal. That's the top. But here it is, we together are going to do this and this and this. And you can start to feel that in the we is, thus I can be, which is the definition of Ubuntu, there is no terrible three. Are you feeling it? So this is theory. It's the same like 1 + 1 is 2 type of stuff when we learn to do maths in the end. But it's deep stuff. I'll do one more thing and then we'll stop for a break. Let's talk about power and authority. Another very big thing. And I'm going to put it very simple. And in the ongelofelijke podcast of last Sunday, there was a whole discussion about this. That in a Western environment, we mix up how power looks like. So let's unmind it a bit. Something happens. You're doing a business, you have a case, something happens. There's two big influences to this happening. There's the politics of it, and there's the culture of it. The politics allows resources, the culture says what's right and wrong. Now, when you do an analysis, certainly for your cases, you have been asked to do a stakeholder analysis. I'm sure it's in your studies, is it? Yes, stakeholder analysis. Very good thing to do. But the stakeholder analysis is only about politics. It's about power. And that's fine. It exists. Politics exists and it serves a function. That's why we go to the polls in October here in the Netherlands. But it's only that. It doesn't deal with culture. Because power exercised without proper authority is illegitimate. We do not know if it's allowed. How come we know if it's allowed? And for that, we have relation holders. The ones in authority, the ones who keep the story of your family. Your parents are sort of relation holders, especially if you're now into adulthood. They don't have the power over you anymore. But I hope in a community with them, you're still listening to them. And they will espouse certain values. This is our family, how we do these things. They are relation holders. And you have to deal with them out of honoring your parents. So your power is sort of, set, encapsulated by the authority. Authority you receive, power you take. So relation holders, yes, they have agency to do things, but have they been allowed to? That depends on who we allow to do the story. So this is a very fundamental one about authority and power. What is this linear economy now? So we're going to discuss, well, you know the linear economy, let me give you a very simple definition of what linear economy is. That is, you take, you use, you throw away. Okay? You take by buying in a shop or getting resources or whatever. I see it as high level as possible. You use. Now here are mostly people that think they are individual. I think you are persons, but then you use me and the rest. Yeah, social contract, please. Otherwise you can't use it. It's mine. And then you throw it away in the waste bin. That's linear economy. It's also how the big companies work. You know, Tata Steel has a difficulty right now with the staalslakken. Can't throw it away. They threw it away, was in the roads. We know what all the difficulties are with that. So the linear economy is take, use, throw. We'll come to the circular economy in a moment. The interesting thing is the definition of the linear economy does not exist. There is nobody asking the linear economy, how do you define yourself? But there's a lot of questions. We even have a lecturate professorship on it. What's this circular economy now? You're getting it? But we work the linear economy. That's what we are most of the time studying in the school, and we are now breaking that by doing these kind of lectures. But the linear economy is known for everybody. It starts with separation. Start with a spreadsheet. You are the supplier, I'm the customer. You are the waste collector. You are the bank. You are the one who pays. Separation. So it is creating dichotomies. It creates borders. It creates scarcity. It creates certain ways of history and specific kinds of money. Digital money. Money that, does it exist actually? What is money? Anyway, it's separated and it thrives on separation. Because say it's not separated. Now who's customer, who's supplier? How does that work? The second one is the one of domination. Marktleiderschap is valued. Because I dominate now. I can set the price. People come to me because of what? Because I've separated myself, first of all. I'm not the other. I'm not the competitor. I hope in the words that I'm using, you are starting to resonate a bit with what we have discussed before the pause. But anyway, that's coming. So listen to your heart when we are going through this. And we are striving towards market leadership, to dominate. We are better than America, aren't we? Or different way around, or China, or Africa, or I don't know. The third one is the one of extraction. That's the one that we had the individualization needed. We needed what is it? Capitalism. We need capitalism to be able to extract. I'll pay you for your resources. So it also needs jealousy. That's what marketing does. I'm jealous, I want that. Or influencers, oh, they have it, I want it, because I'm something separate. They do have it, and I don't. So it's all in this linear economy. And it treats everything as other. Something that's in the shop is not mine, so it's something else, and I can get it. But it is really preaching the dissatisfaction so we can get it. We need to get strategies to extract the raw materials or the produce to bring it somewhere. And then it is running on this individuality. So what is mine is not yours. What is of nature is not mine yet. What is from our ancestors is not yet mine, or should it be mine? All these discussions come up in the linear economy, and you're dealing with it in your studies, how to deal with these things, how to assign costs, separation, domination, individualizing. We need individuals, otherwise it doesn't work. And it must be very efficient. We have other resources like time. That is, what is it actually? What is time? But we have individualized time. So I have it now, you can have it later. And it must be efficient. My time must be full. And we know what comes out of that. You know, I can tell you already on the top one, out of it comes loneliness. If you're separated, loneliness is the result. Efficiency, we get overworked. But it must be more efficient, better systems, which are, it builds upon each other. Then we conserve. Conservation makes, it's ours, not theirs. So let's put a fence around it and make sure it's available for us. So make legal contracts that is for us, not for the other. You see, again, separation. You always start with the top. But then we conserve it for us. And then there's issues of migration and so on. And it all becomes part of the linear economy. And how do we sustain our economy? And then we shield them. We make big fences around us, our shops, our countries, our continents. And we should also the other, the one who are separated from us, from which we might exploit, that we have put in slavery. At least we are safe. This is how the linear economy works and how 9/11, anti-terrorism, neoliberalism, all those things are harnessing. If it works from the top to the bottom. This is the linear economy. This is what we mostly study. Anywhere, also in Africa, study this. Now comes the circular economy. Oh, no, by the way, you felt something in your heart maybe. Let's now put this, oh, it went up. Let's put this side. Now it becomes really, I mean, lo and behold, separation is orientalization. Domination, marktleiderschap, is imperialism. I only know this for the last half year, by the way. Yeah, this is, I have not even dared to write the paper, although last year is sort of going towards it. And abstraction is colonialism, and this individualization, this efficiency, this conservation, and the shielding off is supercolonialism. This shows how our linear economy is a colonial economy, which thrives on orientalization, imperialization, colonization, and supercolonization. So all these calls for decolonization, we must get things right. Our system is thriving on it. It works on it. This is what we study. All right. The nice thing is that the Dutch government said, hey, we can't work on that anymore because we are ravaging the earth. We need to start to extract from countries like China that might stop us to do so. Or other countries might say, oh, I'm doing the same thing. I'll put the borders up. I'll bring you to court. I do all kinds of things to stop this so I can do it. Because this is what we study in the universities and in our lives. Because we have grown to custom that this is how the world works. But it only works like this for about 200 years now. I don't know how long you think the world exists, but it exists much longer and many zeros, 1 or 2 or 3 after that. So this is a modern way of looking at things. But the Dutch government says we can't continue like that because we need a circular economy because we will run out of resources. We don't have access to raw materials. Listen, China. We don't have access to security. Read United States. We don't have access to the ones that we were partners with. Read geopolitics. So there are many systems. I didn't put the slide in, but it is available also in other slides. There are many different definitions. In 2017, there's a 115th definition, an economic system that replaced blah, 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 blah. That's circular economy. But again, I must recall, never is the question asked, what is the linear economy? It's only asked, what's the circular economy? Not fair. Okay, I stand for the circular economy, but I'm saying it's not fair. I dare to give you a definition, which I'm going to give you differently than in words. Because the circular economy is a narrative that the Dutch government says in 2050 it must be 100% circular. But what is it then that we are striving for? Because the customers, of course, said our product needs to be cheaper and better. So there's much skepticism about the circular economy, really. But we can't see it, in my view, if we look at it Eurocentrically, because then we look at it from the linear perspective. So we are going to view the circular economy from the values perspective, where we know we need an economy that is life-sustaining, where we are together, where our communities can be involved, where we have communion in otherness. See this lecture being given over the continents, that we are fulfilling our purpose. I called upon your family life. What is the purpose of family life? These kind of purposes, are they being supported by the economy? We want to work together. We want to be stewards of an earth. We want to be sustaining our context. That's what we want, and rightly so. We should do it. But I pose to you that the previous definition of the linear economy doesn't work for that. It separates, it extracts, it does something that we know in our hearts is not right. If there are 13.8 million people right now making it possible that I stand here, and we say thank you. How do we say thank you? And I want to thank you. I want to thank them. And in Australia, Canada, many countries, it's very normal that you thank those who made it possible for you to stand there. I didn't start like that because many people don't even know that we are where we are because of them. I think, to me, the circular economy is our hope to remedy that. And I will tell after the next stop how we changed. That comes at the end. So hold your horses. Let's go to circular economy. What is the circular economy in the same way that we saw the linear economy? And here at our electorate, this is what we are starting to propose. First of all, it's about togetherness. Won't you like that? That we are together? That we are prosumers, which we actually are. That we take care of each other. And it is about how we speak to each other, how we are responsible to each other. I also give this lecture open on the internet to show that we are not hiding away doing our little things. We are together over continents. That's what we need in our lessons, in our economies. Togetherness. Interexistence. And very often it is how we speak about it. It must be careful words. I'm trying to be honest, speaking honest words. Words that have authority. And that's what you need to go for university for, to hear words that are speaking in authority. Because things will change, powers will change, but real value will stay. So it is everybody involved. That's where the economy is about. And that's what we need. We need to talk with those who we receive from. So the circular economy looks almost the same. You receive from others, you use together, then you move it on to others. And you are responsible for that moving on. It's not just throwing in the waste bin and paying somebody off that we know we put in slavery. No, responsible moving it on. That's what our ancestors did with us. That's what we want to do for our children. So this togetherness is not only of us now sitting here, it's also together with your parents that made it possible. You are here with the ancestors of your parents that went through Second World War to have a free country here to do so, in Zimbabwe war in the 1980s, and our children. If we continue this linear economy, we know we are depleting, and the earth is talking back. I'm sure you get more lectures on that. I'm not going into it, but I'm making the case of togetherness. And the second one is the dialogue, to talk about these things. Now, this is a whole collation, so I'm now sort of emanating these truths, hopefully, these theories, where we can build our circular economy on. But it's about the dialogue between the supplier and the customer to do what do we do when the product is not being used? How do we refurbish? How do we reuse? That's a dialogue. That's not something that you just make a system. You dialogue. You talk with each other. You talk with the ones who are supplying, with your raw material suppliers. We need to talk about these things. Dialogue. Dialogue is also close, those near to you. It has a geographical component to it. There's a lot to say about it. I won't go too deep because I want you to just get the tips of the iceberg because they're complex enough. The third value of the circular economy is the one of sharing. Sharing is caring. It is the thing that what I have is also for you, because if we are together, there is no separation there. So you share, even the producer you will share the story of use with the producer. The producer gets what we call erkenning, will be happy, not lonely, will serve you even better, but it is all about sharing. That's called conviviality. It's a very difficult English word. Conviviality means you approach stuff with a positive attitude to share, not to shield, to share the story, share your products, share the ones and thank them. Thanking is also sharing. Thanking is a gift, you know. It is also about the present. We are here now responsible for what we have received from those who went before us and responsible what we do with the future. Not tomorrow, we'll deal with it. It is now. With those who are present, your suppliers, where you talk with, you are now. This is the theory of the continuous present moment. We live now. And separating the future from the now is another thing of separation that is being used in the linear economy. But the circular is about now. It's the future of how your children have to work with the toxic that we are producing is an issue now. And we have to take it into consideration whether or not we fly. Yes, we're enjoying now, but are our children enjoying a much heated up earth? That's the decision in the circular economy. So the decisions are in the now. And then it's about harmony. We need peace. We thrive in peace. Life is about being in peace. Yes, we can buy more arms and stuff, and maybe at a certain time you have to. But in principle, we want to live in peace. We want to go home feeling in peace with our nature, in peace with our suppliers, in peace with the ones who might need the product and not yourself. We want to be in peace. So these are what I call the big five. And I put very complex words to it. I will not go to the philosophy of it. But this is the big five. So you have got the terrible three, you remember, Orientalism, imperialism, colonialism, with current times, super colonial times. Now you have the big five. The big five. The big five in Africa is the elephant and so on. So we put it like that. This is the big five, being together, talking and dialoguing about it, sharing with respect for the present, the continuous present moment, and in harmony. And that's rhythm. That's dance, that's art, because the products that we are producing in our factories are forms of art. Our life is about dancing and loving each other, and that's what the circular economy is about. That's why it gives hope. Yes, sir.
Do you think all type economies need to exist to have
We will come to that when we discuss the change. Is that okay? I want to keep to theory right now. Otherwise, and I will talk about how can we see this in reality? Because here we are at a University of Applied Science, so what do we do in practice with it? We will not go away, but we need to understand the theory. And I propose that outside of this lesson, that you view anything you do in life, if there's any Orientalism in it, imperialism, colonialism. It really is. All the listeners also in Masvingo, no project proposal ever with Orientalism, imperialism, colonialism in it. That's what we would like to also try to exercise. Because not only is it morally issues, whatever you think of it, but it does not bring about a circular economy. And in 2050, this country has to be 100% circular. We won't reach it if we have those aspects in it, is my proposition. So, let's do the same trick. You remember what community was? Do you recognize that individuals and conglomerates support a linear economy, that persons and communities support a circular economy? So it's all about community. And you will see that in community, you are together. In communities, you do share and you talk. And the community is now existing, is talking about how do we continue. And I hope you have a vibrant family life and that you look at it. And of course, things change. Parents get older, you get more mature and stuff. Things change all the time in community, but it's about being together and living together and find new ways of behaving together. So you're safe, you're loved, you take care of everything. And therefore, it's also harmony. That's community. And we live in a broken world. So there's many situations it cannot be exist. But this is the theory that we are looking for to get to a circular economy. And this is what we have to achieve. And this is what we need to learn at school. And I really am happy with Windesheim University wanting to do these kind of things. For instance, we have Bert Prenger coming into the room right now. You see Kees Klomp will walk in the room, and we have professors sitting online. This is important stuff, which we need to do on a global scale. We cannot just do it in Zwolle. We do it in Zwolle in the way Zwolle recognize it. Yes, we have our culture, but these are the higher purposes of life that we want to try to achieve. And we have a wonderful opportunity right now by having to do this. Because the resources are running out, we have climate change, these things do happen to us, they are scary. And I propose that the way to look at it like that, here are ways to find solutions and to talk with each other about it. So I hope you got it. That the linear economy is the left side, the circular economy is the right side. So I think you're the only ones right now in the world that learn these kind of things. Because this we need. And with the definition, we don't get there. Because that is, again, orientalized, separated. It's not this, it's that. All right, we go on. Now we go with examples. And let's see if if it works. I have to click here and then here. All right, so I'm going to show three things: what was, what is, and what will be. What was, the past, the present, and the future. From these perspectives, from the perspective of the Netherlands. Okay, we are in the Netherlands here, so our African friends, this might be new for you. Look at the map where the Netherlands is. It's as big as the Masvingo province there. I mean, 6 Zimbabwe's and you have the whole of Europe, by the way. Yeah? Zambia is also online. 3 Zambias and you have the whole of Europe. You might have seen the discussion on the Mercator projection and so on. So even your mind, it's not in the lecture, but it's interesting because I saw it in the news last week or the week before that it is coming on news. The best projection is the Peters projection, I would say. What was being proposed here was still a middle of the road thing. You have to, if you look at land mass, it's amazing. So the Netherlands is very small, but even a map, it looks much bigger than it even is. To me, the Netherlands is a town in Europe. All right, it's a town in Europe. Anyway, so what was? Here I've got 4 pictures. The left picture, top picture might be interesting. Hey guys there, if you want to discuss, fine, go do it outside. Otherwise, please note, no problem. The left side is the way that the ships would go around to bring information. Also good. So an interesting thing, I'm also an engineer. So I'm in ICT, information and communication technology. This is exactly where the sea cables lay nowadays. So it's even now working like that. But these were the shipping routes in the 1700s, 1600s, 1800s, and so on. And they had bags of produce, of course, but also letters, information. And that's where the universities came out, by the way. Because the universities were there, universal, and you hear the separation, but you claim you're not separating, but you separate everything according to your view. So that's what the university is about. Universities don't exist, it's communiversity. The communities do exist, so it's a plural way of knowing. But anyway, left top, the Rats. Left bottom, I don't know if you read the history of the Netherlands. We had taken over what they call that India. Yeah, there was an opium there. And up to the 1942s, when the Japanese took over in the then called India, now called Indonesia, opium was the biggest revenue for the Dutch state. So if you look at colonialism, the colonial time, when it was landjepik, the Dutch ran an opium thing. I mean, we're looking now at Guatemala and stuff, and Colombia, there's a big trouble. Escobar and so on. It was the Dutch government that did that up to 42. In the 1800s, people got paid in opium. We are doing a big study now in our lectorate about looking at consumerism from addiction. But we have a history of hundreds of years that the Dutch state ran an opium state. So let's be gentle in our finger pointing to others who might do that. So the Dutch economy ran on opium. Then on the bottom right, you see Fort, what is it, Amelia, I think, of Alandia. Anyway, that's in Ghana. So the Dutch had 30 to 35 forts in Ghana alone, was called Gold Coast at the time, for slave trade. The Dutch were also a big slave trader. The Dutch colonialists, well, you read the books, you won't believe what they all did. Just to show you the size of this stuff. And at the top right shows you some of the colonials, the really landjepick type of colonies. Now we do it differently, of course, that the Netherlands had. And I had with ChatGPT, I checked yesterday, so I'm not completely sure it's right, but I'm sure that Chat knows these kind of things because it's just a statistical project. I said, how much bigger were the colonies of the Netherlands compared to what it is now? And at that time it was even Holland, so it must be smaller, you know, the real powers. Doesn't matter. 61 times. Can you imagine the obscene decadence of people thinking they can rule in a colonial way this? Nowadays we still do, not necessarily these, but we use means of ICT, banking systems, and so on, like the top left shows. But you just show the sheer thing. If you put Indonesia on the map of Europe, and again, the Mercator projection doesn't allow it, but if it would be the real size, the tip of Indonesia would be at Lisbon in Portugal, and the top would be past Moscow. That's the size of Indonesia. It's mind-boggling that people thought that this was possible. But they did it with power, violence, and stuff. So, this was, and then of course the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, the first company in the world. The Dutch are super important because what does this show is the country where thinking changes is the Netherlands. That's why I'm proud to be here, because this is the country where hope lies. The first gay marriage, the first company, the first stock exchange, the first this, that, and the other was always in the Netherlands. That's why we have hope. And you as the future leaders of this country, that's why I'm proudly standing in front of you, and I'm grateful to be able to share this. And you're still sitting here because it's to your own volition. You could have gone out. Here we sit, we discuss and look these things in the eyes, which we should. The VOC, the first company in the world, was in the Netherlands. And then the top right, that's the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. That was the first stock exchange in the world. This is today. These things that I showed you before, they sort of don't exist anymore, or in a different form. These things, what I'm showing you now, is what is now. And these things started, and we say they are successful, but they are successful on the whatever we did during colonial times, when it was very obvious that it was. And the stock exchange is one of the first ones. Amsterdam, 1602, founded to be allowing the shares of the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie to be sold on a public forum, and it still exists today. So it's the birthplace of modern capitalism. Again, the birth of capitalism is in the Netherlands. The English will claim they have had the birth of capitalism. No, they learned from the Dutch. So, the left side is one of the biggest petroleum companies in the world. The Batavia Petroleum Company. Batavia was the capital of Indonesia at the time when colonial powers were there. Shell got to where it was, or where it is today, because of colonialism. It ravished the petroleum supplies in the Orient, in Asia, through the Batavia. So, and it still lives today, and it got a head start. So if we tell people in Guatemala, get your own petrol company, they have to head against these kind of monsters that have started to exist because of colonialism and exist today. Leiden University, beautiful buildings built by, financed by the biggest slaver that the Dutch had. Beautiful buildings today. In most countries, when you go to buildings like that, there will be a big sign saying thank you and saying sorry that we are opposed. Because this is, of course, we live today, but we have to know our history. It's not there yet, as far as I know, in Leiden, but it was funded through the proceeds of slavery and colonial exploitation. Today, we can still do that, and it's the oldest university in the world. Then we have Amsterdam. The colonial monuments, millions of people come to look every year, and it's monuments to the proceeds of slavery and colonization. We're still benefiting of it today. These tourists come and bring income because of what was built during colonial times, today. Akzo Nobel was de Bataafse kunstzijdefabriek with the enkelaars, I don't know. Anyway, also a huge multinational, started off with the proceeds of colonial times. Unilever, the Dutch Indian landbouwmaatschappij, United Africa Company, it has always been the collection of the Dutch and the English. Unilever is still Dutch English, it's now I think in England, but it was in Rotterdam, the headquarters. It has always been striving on the proceeds of colonialism, and that's why it's big. So if we hope, how come that those Zimbabweans who are listening don't have a multinational like Unilever? Well, they haven't had that colonial times to get them started. So, and then Vlisco has always been Vlisco and has taken over the whole market of special batik, learned from Indonesia, taken over all the, what we call capelanas in Western Africa. Vlisco is still the same name. It's a family business. And of course, time, you see Musk sitting there. These are the current ones. And this is the colonialism that we are using for our emails, our software, our stuff. And when there is some political change, we know we're in trouble. Say it stops tomorrow. They will continue, but how will we type our documents? So that's in the power of these people nowadays. So this is today. And then what's coming? On the left top, you see the academic world. Right now, there is a big program in the Netherlands from Leiden Universiteit, Erasmus Universiteit, and TU Delft to support, help the Orientalized African PhDs. 51 PhDs started in the Netherlands for Africa. In the Netherlands for Africa. How many PhDs did we start in Zimbabwe for the Dutch? How many PhDs did we start in Zimbabwe for the Dutch candidates? How come Africans are here in Leiden, Rotterdam, and Delft to do their PhDs? Who is benefiting? The BRICS, Brazil, Russia, Indonesia. Now we come into real geopolitics. They represent over 50% of the world population today. Do you know what the policies of the BRICS are? Have you seen that the last meeting was in Russia? I know I'm not saying things, you know what it comes to feeling, we know what we get for information, but 50% of the world is meeting and discussing. How come? Then you have got Ibrahim Traoré. It's just an example of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, which was Upper Volta before that, is a fascinating story of decolonization. I just put it there because that was Burkina Faso, that the way of, in this case, of a benevolent dictatorship that tries to do what the circular economy does, he's trying to do it. Sankara was the one before him. We have got still the extraction of resources. Even tomorrow, the extractions go to Europe, but the locals are being exploited. You know the example for Congo for our phones. It's mentioned every day, and it's happening now, and it most probably will happen tomorrow. And if I think of these things, I can't sleep, because these are my friends. They are right now online, living like that. They are watching this lecture right now. And if we don't know them, we can call them. I can give you the telephone number. Talk to them. And then the far left bottom, we have super hope. King Willem-Alexander, and whatever you think of the king, if you see the authority of relationship holders, the rest of the world knows the relationship holder of the Netherlands, in the end, is the king. He said in 2023, sorry for slavery, which is the first one of the lineage. Remember the exploitation, orientalism, and says, forgive us. Forgiving means I want to listen to your story. So that's the future, and that's why I'm super hopeful in the Netherlands, because we have a king that did that. The only one, as far as I know, in the world, which gives me all hope that we can do this. And then you have got China on the top right. We know that something happening there. They have the Silk Route Initiative, where they are building infrastructure, and they basically now building imperialism systems through infrastructure. And I don't know if you saw the last picture of those who stood next to President Xi on the platform. Then you see the picture on the top right. This is something to watch. And that is, for instance, how come you can now order Chinese stuff online and they come here very cheap because of this kind of infrastructure. The infrastructure is all Chinese. These are just these things that you see. And you see the mix of Orientalism, imperialism, colonialism, supercolonialism. But the bottom left, to my view, gives hope for a circular economy. I think I'm getting to the end, but still I want to mention how come that we don't hear so much about these kind of things. And there I have to point out what a hegemony is. Hegemony. The linear economy story is hegemoneous. Means that's mainly the story that is being told. Well, I would think 80% of the world population does not live in linear economic countries. So it is it's a hegemonik paradigm, and therefore it's it's what you hear. The other stories is what they call subalternized. But this is very important to understand that we don't see these things because it's just shouting. The elite are shouting, the colonialists are shouting, and we need to hear all voices. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm not putting norms on this, but this is what is happening. That's why we have difficulty seeing it. But now the last slide is how we're going to do change. And there was already the question there. What does it mean? Now, I like this. This is a double loop model. What you have, the dominant system, which you now know is the linear economy, and you know where it's based on, and it's at the top. So you have the pioneers of those things, our ancestors did that. Then we are now sort of the stabilizers. We know it's sort of cracking everywhere. We try to stabilize, and we have governments very often oriented towards that. Right now, the stabilizers even have autocratic, non-democratic tendencies to it. That's the top. And then it will go to death. This will die. We'll run out of resources. Nature will stop us. Whatever will stop it, it will die. We can't sustain it like this. I hope you have had lectures on that. I'm not giving one. But it is certainly a hopeless system and it's not amenable. So we have to look at hospice work. So we should not say it's wrong. It's not good. My daughter is a hospice nurse. She's taking care of people that die. Such a process you do with love, with care, with attention, with tenderness. So we should look at the linear economy, in my view, with tenderness, with love, knowing it will be fading out. In the meantime, we have an emergent system, which is not emergent everywhere. I will give you the example for Africa in a moment, because now here we diverge. All the rest was the same. Here we diverge. Because the emergent system is the circular system. There are many people, 20, 30% in the Netherlands, that is circular. Needs to become 100%. And it's being overshadowed by this hegemonic system which I've shown. But exist. There are pioneers that build networks. I'm sure that also you or some of you are working on ways how to do it responsibly. They form communities. They do things together. Even in Almere, there is a whole living area, just the name eludes me now, where they try to do this in building. There are many experiments, and the Dutch government wants this. We have all the political support. It's happening, and that will start taking over. So the change is not this system. This system is doomed. It's recognizing the other system. And there I want to show you our African friends that are online, and I see many students, about 50 there, Masvingo sitting, and professors and so on. Their dominant system is the circular system. And there we are trying to get them, the emergent system, to become linear, and they see it fails. We discussed the whole week, last week, on a conference, where even Bert Prenger at the back We had a paper on Ubuntu and Rhineland thinking. So how can we bring the thinkings together? Really exciting stuff. So I would say to my African friends, don't go for this emergent system. You are still in the pioneer phase of the circular system, but that pioneering has been done for hundreds of years. So there we can learn from each other. And that's what we are going to try to do in the next follow-up of this kind of things, that we are going to discuss among ourselves about these dominant systems and start to understand what is emergent for us here in the Netherlands is already very common in other parts of the world, because that is how you survive, by being together, by talking about it, by sharing, and so on. And that's how the world has survived this onslaught of colonialism and supercolonialism. So this looks totally different in our different environments. Therefore, we need global solutions, circular economy that looks differently in the different parts of the world, because Zwolle is, of course, unique and should remain unique and is unique. So this is it.